Thank you very much. Puckett and Zoe, overlooked by many, underrated, undervalued. The Chinese scene has been churning away for a couple years, and now they've burst forth an explosion of passion and incredible talent. This is the match we've been waiting for, Matt. South Korea versus China to decide it all here.
Yeah, China is obviously, I think, outperformed a lot of people's expectations here at this event. And you look at both of these rosters. South Korea is the only team here at the Overwatch World Cup where all 6 of their players played in the Overwatch League last year. China just has 1. And, you know, Sky didn't really even play that much for the Shanghai Dragons. It's going to be very interesting. We're going to learn a lot about, you know, where Chinese Overwatch, I think we've already learned, you know, where they stack up in terms of the world. But South Korea is the best. See if they can upset them.
The biggest player base in the world, represented by only a scant few in the Overwatch League. Now we're really getting to see just a bit more of what China can produce. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a best of 7 series, so hold on to your hats. It's going to be a little bit longer than the ones prior. That's what we love to see. And of course, Control will be our first map type. It'll be Ilios to kick things off.
Yeah, now Ilios is a map where South Korea, they can put Fleta on Pharah. That is a hero he is extremely strong on. And then Carpe can play a lot of different things here. You know, Carpe can play Doomfist. We've usually seen Fleta play it for this team thus far, but maybe you see some McCree, maybe we see some Tracer at a Carpe, where it's funny, you know, Tracer's kind of the hero we all like know Carpe for at the beginning, but he hasn't played it in so long. But as we get ready to go into the game, South Korea's still going to make some change to the lineup. Probably won't see Animo be playing Tracer here.
I would be a little bit surprised, although he's shown us that he can flex quite comfortably between many of the supports, and he was, you know, referred to actually by many of the players on the South Korean team for being their pick for one of the best honors, which is insane because Jonak, we know him just to be so incredible in that particular role. Gooseray, obviously, his statistics are incredible. He's been stomping all over the rest of the competition, but now trying to really face the final boss, ladies and gentlemen. This is where it all begins and where it will end. Let's kick it off here on Ilios Lighthouse.
You know, China, a team that came into this event, and everyone was saying, what are they going to run? What are they going to do? Now, as we've seen them progress through the tournament, they have played more of the 3-3, the triple support, the triple tank. We haven't really seen them do it at the beginning of the tournament. And even in scrims, a lot of people saying, hey, they're not really running it that much. They're playing a lot of weird, different compositions. And now, towards the later end, maybe we can see them pull this out. Maybe it's a little bit better than people expect.
China will set up on the point early. They will dare South Korea to challenge. The point's just unlocked, so this is where the fight's really going to begin. And straight away, Sky gets flattened by Fury. He charges in. Carpe to flashbang to get the DC on late gun to all but secure this fight for South Korea. Oh, Matt, they were chomping at the bit to get started. And as soon as the bell rings, it's a knockout.
Yeah, you know, Gooseray has been so good being aggressive for China, and you see how South Korea attacks them. Just in that first fight, they take the aggression to China, forcing China to peel back, you know, try and help keep these supports alive. If they do that, that keeps Jonak free. Jonak already almost at a transcendence after our first fight. You can see the amount of damage he can put down, and that's how South Korea can, you know, win this match running away with it.
Sky falling early in the prior fight definitely hurt. Oh, Carpe plucks Vital's head off with one fell swoop. That's another very quick fight, ladies and gentlemen. Carpe waiting in the wings of McCree. His accuracy, definitely not something that we will ever underestimate, but that was filthy.
And you can stop Carpe for only a limited amount of time. He's a player that during the regular season, if he was on fire, there was really nothing the opposing team could do about it. And you know, the bad part for China is, you know, even if Fleta goes over to a DPS here, he's another one of those type of game-changing players.
Both of them in their own rights, superstars. Carpe been playing it safe so far in this fight, just hoping to sort of book it for the backline, and he found Sky already. He just snuck in there, Matt. Kidnapping. We've got video evidence, Matt, but no one's going to catch this man.
I mean, look, McCree can put down, look, the McCree versus Soldier debate, right? Soldier a little bit more mobility, a little bit more constant damage. McCree can burst these players down, especially, you know, a hero like Zenyatta. When Sky's playing, it goes right by. Carpe, all he has to do, just hit 2 quick headshots, headshot and a body shot, and there goes the Zen.
South Korea, it appears they've identified a potential weak point on China, because Sky has been the first to die in almost every fight thus far. This time they've sort of weeded out Carpe. They realized he was waiting in the wings, but it's a simple reposition for the McCree player, and then back to his backline. Overhead goes Gooseray, and he definitely wants to get rid of the gunslinger. The flashbang's going to stop him in his tracks, and Gooshay's out. as quickly as he came in. He didn't want to deal with that at all. He was down to about 10 HP and had to jump out of the fight. He finds Carpe in the end, though. Sound barrier now being brought to bear for the Chinese squad. They've got that extra durability, and it goes a heck of a long way. Fury went over the edge. Fleta does fight Shy in the Brigitte battle, but it's going to be tough going here for Jonak and Co on the point. Gushue just pulls off for the time being, but Rally was used in the fight. Fleta giving the extra health and armor, and he gets himself another 2 kills. 3 kills for Fleta in that fight on the Brigitte. He'll love to see it.
You know, your main DPS player in that composition, really the only one playing a DPS player, Carpe, who dies during that on McCree. In a lot of teams where they would have just died and reset, what did South Korea do? They double down, they rally, and guess who's still there? Jonak. Jonak leads South Korea in damage after that first point. Also leads them in healing as well as just doing typical Jonak things. But you see, when you have him on the Zenyatta, there's no way to really attack this team where it's like a clear road to victory, right?
Jonak was a player on the New York Excelsior that was heavily invested in by his team. They played around him. In this South Korean roster, that seems to be less of the case, and yet Jonak is able to do just as much with arguably less investment. He's a low economy player in this particular lineup, and he's still getting it done.
When during the regular season, NYXL, it's like, okay, we pressure Jonak, we feel pretty good that we can deal with the rest of the team. With this lineup, with Carpe and Fleta, if you pressure Jonak, the rest, they're going to just run through you and kill you. But now we'll get to see McCree battle of the Leave versus Carpe as, you know, China loses that point, but this is definitely winnable.
A little bit tough to remove the team in control of the point that has Orisa, so you'll see that China won't just give this up. Because you need to push Fate and Co off the point to really control it yourself. So Holt used there, no one being pulled into the well. It's a bit wishful thinking at this point. But China actually give up control of the point. So now they have to come forward. They cannot sit back here in this corner. Because South Korea are going to have healing for Fate. They're going to have yet another shield he can replace it with. So they've got to come up with a plan. Evil Tummy to speed them forward. It looks like that's what they're trying to do here. Carpe behind the shield, rattling off those shots, and China's shield breaks first. The pressure is better on the side of South Korea, and China are held in stalemate.
I mean, Carpe just has such a better angle than Leave does. As that Jonak was killed usually, so don't have that shield. And you see, as soon as they find Sky on his own, Fury jumps on him, and they're going to be forced to use Transcendence.
Oh, the Deadeye catches him out. Carpe just needed the 1 kill. Happy enough with that. A Q for a McCree. We'll take that any day of the week. Lay Young obviously over the edge. Evil Tal also getting it over quickly. And this is going to be a big issue for China. They cannot win the round by being passive. It's not as simple as getting a pick. Because of those Orisa shields, China can't really just find like a free kill. They need to come forward and actually match 6v6 and an all-out brawl. And that may be why we're seeing the Reinhardt, but this could be risky. Gushue, if he gets close to that shield, he's very susceptible to getting halted into the pit.
Yeah, but if they can go through the side with the Lighthouse, they're going to try and pin him in that corner. South Korea, though, already realizes this. They see the Reinhardt coming around. So what do? They reposition on the China side. Now you may see a big halt into that middle well.
Oh, yeah. I think we need the Benny Hill theme music going on right now. Both these teams are trying to match each other's movements around the point. Shy goes down first. Planet did have a Bardic Grenade applied to him, but it doesn't seem to bother him. Shield bash, and that insult to injury. China still without an answer. South Korea quickly reminding fans and foes alike that they are the best.
The thinking is they are for China, right? Like when they want to push them into that corner, the best way to probably do it is switch over to 3 tanks, 3 supports. The issue is South Korea reads it like a book. They just rotate to the other side. So now if you're China, what do? You know if you go Lighthouse, they're going to wrap around. Do you try and bait it out? You don't have any long-range damage, so you can't really fight this across the point.
No choice but to come forward and face the music. China must stand and deliver now. Retake control or it's all going to be over on this map. Lei Young, very lucky not to get pulled into the pit there. Grenades used defensively for China to keep that healing going. Sound barrier also applied, but Carpe waits it out with the Deadeye. China have to fold away from him. He doesn't find any kills with it, but he definitely controls the zoning. Earthshatter into a shield. Gushue, he had no other option. Resuit for Lei Young now, and Fleta's going to push forward. Gushue stunned up and pulled in into the pit. No, he teeters on the edge from paralyzing moment, and then Adamo gets the job done. Shy's going to be over on the Brigitte, and that's about it. What a statement from the reigning world champions. South Korea, they probably listened. They probably heard whispers in the hallways, Matt. Oh, South Korea look a bit shaky this year. They haven't practiced. They changed the roster at the last minute. Pure skill does not lie.
And you know, these players are so talented. I mean, they are some of the biggest names that we had in Season 1 of the Overwatch League that everyone was kind of doubting them, like, oh, they're making the roster changes last minute. Can they put it together in time? It's like they've had a few days to practice here, and well, as you can see, that practice has definitely paid off.
And it's worth noting as well, the amount of deaths that the South Korean roster suffered for the entirety of that particular map was 3. Just 3. I mean, the only people that really died, Carpe obviously playing McCree, so you're expecting to be a target in many of those situations. But Well is such an interesting map, because once you have control of the point, you're set up there with that Orisa, you demand not only aggression, but the enemy team to literally come to your doorstep and try and evict you. That is very hard to do when the defensive team can sit back, bide their time, or reposition around the well, as we saw multiple times.
Yeah, and it's great calling from, Fate obviously as the main tank on the Orisa, but also Animo, because you're utilizing that Lucio speed boost to bring everybody around to the Chinese side of the map. And then once China gets all the way around, it's like, well, what do we do? Do we just keep going around in circles the entire time? We have to fight. So then once they start to move across the point, that's where you start to see, the Lucio boops into the well, the Orisa halts, dragging people down there. And there's nothing really China can do.
No, let's have a look at some of the highlights as well from map number 1, just to catch you up, especially if you're just joining us. Good morning if you're over in the east, by the way. It all started on Lighthouse here, Matt, where China were holding the point early, and then South Korea just jumped on them immediately as the round began.
Yeah, the first time Carpe was hiding in the corner, you can get away with that, right? You should have checked it ideally, but you didn't. So, but the second time when they check it and he's there and they let him get away, like they get him pretty low, and instead of committing to the fight and diving in, they let South Korea just kind of restabilize, and then they're able to win that fight. I feel like if you can get those little advantages if you're China, that's where you need to capitalize. You cannot let them regroup. You cannot let them heal back up, or else South Korea will just pick you apart.
You saw that Reinhardt play, and I kind of mentioned it as well. Like, Reinhardt, if he wants to take the fight to the Orisa on the point, is at great risk of being, pulled into the well by Holt or by getting booped. That's exactly what happened. What are your thoughts about, seeing something like Sombra employed on that particular map? Try and shut down the shields, maybe neutralize that Orisa factor a bit more.
So, I mean, you could have played the Sombra there, and, we've kind of had a little bit of a joke about it, but playing, the 3 tanks, 3 supports with the dive tanks probably would have been something they could have ran there. You could have ran, like, Wrecking Ball, Diva, and Winston, and really jumped onto Jonak or Carpe playing McCree, forced him off of McCree, because McCree's not really mobile, right? So you could have dove into the back. It also gives you that mobility to close the gap. When they move to the other side of the point, you can just get all the way across to the other side.
It's interesting, actually. Well, I actually did see some of China's scrims, and we did actually see a fair bit of this Doomfist, this Wrecking Ball kind of play. It could be a matter of extreme respect. I mean, these two regions have clashed in the past in other tournaments. In fact, the Nexus Cup is one where we often sort of saw Chinese and Korean teams go head-to-head, and actually, that's when we really started to see the first of the Chinese teams come to the fore. Speaking of this Chinese team, we do have a substitution here. Crystal, as per usual, back in for map 2.
Yeah, usually you do have Shy come in for map number 1, play the control maps, and then Crystal comes in, plays from here on out. Well, we don't actually know that. We haven't seen China's series last that long, so maybe they do make a sub eventually, but no, Crystal, very good McCree. That allows Leave to go and play that Doomfist, which he's been making those highlight plays on.
So King's Row would be the next map in this particular series, and if you haven't really gotten a chance to play it or got a feel for how Hybrid works, we do have a little package to show you how it works.
This is Hybrid. 2 teams face off as either defenders or attackers. The attacking team has a limited amount of time to first capture a payload and then escort it along a set path containing 2 checkpoints. To capture the payload, the attackers need to stand within its range for a set amount of time. Defenders can delay capture progress by also standing in range. The attackers must work together to clear away the defenders. If successful, they score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The payload only moves forward when an attacker stands near it. Defenders can delay the payload's movement by standing nearby. To get moving again, the attackers must clear away the defenders by force. If even one attacker is capturing the objective or on the payload when the time runs out, the game enters overtime. This extends play indefinitely until the attackers are either cleared away or they gain more time by reaching a checkpoint. Every time the payload reaches a checkpoint, the attackers score 1 point and gain additional time on the clock. The round ends when the payload reaches the destination or when time runs out. Teams switch sides each round. Whichever team scores the most points and escorts the payload farthest wins.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is, of course, how the hybrid map type works. We've been talking a little bit about substitutions before that video came on. Obviously, Crystal is coming in for Sky. Right now, we are waiting for him just to get his peripherals, finished up and ready to play. But one substitution that we haven't seen South Korea make is Libero, man.
Well, where does he fit on this roster ideally? I mean, Libero, a very good Pharah player, very good Hanzo, Genji as well. Those are kind of all the heroes in Fleda's pool. And we have seen Carpe play Brigitte in the past. We haven't really seen Libero. We saw Sabielby play it a lot when NYXL decided to run it. So you kind of figure he would come in and jump in that Fleda spot, but you can't really take Fleda out of the game if you want a Brigitte and like a hit scan like a McCree. So that would be Carpe's spot to take, and then Fleda jumps on the Brigitte. So it is a little bit surprising considering how talented of a player Libero is. It's just very difficult to fit him into some of these compositions.
It's important to point out as well that a lot of these players, especially on the South Korean roster, have their own Overwatch League teams, and that's where their own sort of sense of fame came from. Fleda as a player did not have great success before he joined the Seoul Dynasty, and even they had a very up and down season. I mean, he played on Flash Lux and back in the Korean region and was considered to be a very good player on a average team, and I think that's being generous in some cases. So for him, this is definitely his first opportunity ever to really sort of represent his country and actually be in the finals of one of those top tournaments for quite some time, at least.
Yeah, we always knew how talented of a player Fleda is on a individual basis. There's so many heroes, just insane mechanics. It's like you haven't really seen him play in like a team that really was like a well-oiled machine who really could kind of push the pace, play around him, really support him in a way that you kind of think a DPS player of his caliber could be supported. And you've seen it here, and it's kind of scary. And it makes you think Seoul Dynasty next year should be pretty sick.
Matt, I'm going to need you to explain this defensive composition for China to me. It features just the two tanks, the Wrecking Ball and the Zarya.
So they tried to do something like this on Anubis, but they ran Winston Zarya. And the thing that you worry about here is like peel for supports, because Zen can kind of defend himself to an extent against Dive, but he's not going to last that long. And then Ana, if she's shooting opponents, she's obviously not healing. So I think it's going to be very difficult to protect these supports, but you also have a very strong Dive to get into the back line with the Wrecking Ball, Doomfist, Sombra. So you definitely want to put some pressure onto Jonak, and I think when you look at South Korea, this could potentially be their strongest comp, where you have the double snipers and you have Jonak on Zen. Just three deadly heroes.
So this isn't a glass cannon on defense, it's a fine China cannon, Matt. Very fragile, but obviously able to do a lot of damage in a pinch. China will have to, as a result, play more aggressively than we're used to seeing teams play on this map. You have to see them, use the burst and the presence of the Wrecking Ball here and follow it up as much as possible. Evil Tile just took a hit there from that high ground, so that's something you need to be careful of. This is the double sniper composition that I think was probably one of the most fearsome prospects from this South Korean roster, but Fate and Carpe just got turned into jello.
They leave the lobby as the hands of leave there. They'll come right back, though, as Carpe switches up. He'll go Zarya, so some changes coming in for South Korea. As China, they do actually with having the Wrecking Ball in, it's very good against double snipers. So South Korea realizes that, they make a change right away.
Juiceway on the front line there. South Korea very quickly shuttling themselves on towards the pointer. Now it's Lee's turn to step up, and very quickly he gets out. He's just dipping his toe in the water right now, trying to see where he can actually start getting some combos off and deleting some of these heroes. Lee took a lot of damage from the backside there. I think he only realized it after it charged in. Now the EMP being applied. 3 people knocked up though. Carpe takes himself out with a right click, but Jonak has found 2. There is still a possibility here, but it's going to be tough with the Transcendence in play. Flatter, he gets turned to match as well. And Lee has definitely been finding his mark on the foreheads of South Korea with that big old gauntlet.
And here's the thing for South Korea. They don't exactly want to play the Reinhardt here right away. They want to try and make this work with Winston, because you can't allow the Ana and Zen for China to just sit up on the high ground and be able to land Discords, be able to land those big biotics. You need to try and put pressure on them. The issue is they're taking so much damage on the way in.
Lei Young, very easy to gain charge on the particle cannon there while sending that Wrecking Ball forward. Lei Young lets go the Graviton Surge go immediately now, with the Transcendence is called into play. Oh, Meteor Strike. Animo gets flattened once again by Lee, but there's more work to be done. Fate lands on Evil Tile, takes him down to Jonak from the side. It's a headshot from the Zenyatta. And he had to do it to him, Matt. Oh, dear. The recovery from South Korea, the employment of that Transcendence. Sometimes I think Jonak just loads into game with Transcendence. He always seems to have it, but right then, that was the perfect time.
So Fate at the beginning of the fight got up to the high ground, put the pressure on the supports, was able to use Primal Rage, push them back a little bit. And you know, when the Graviton Surge comes down from late young, you don't have something like a Biotic Grenade, or you don't have the ability for Immortal to get down there and use their own Transcendence to keep some players alive. And you know, you see, as soon as they get the players off the high ground and they take that point, they go right over to Reinhardt.
Speed boost in, Transcendence forced out rather easily, if I'm not mistaken.
Early.
And an EMP over the top here. Yeah, you can definitely see that China are very invested in winning this fight, but the investment may actually be the issue. A lot of ultimates thrown in here, and yes, they will win out. There's no mistaking that. But they were definitely a little bit concerned about the speed at which South Korea approached them early in that fight.
Now you see China getting very aggressive towards the spawn of South Korea. You're going to have both, and Zarya's having a grab. You see how difficult it is. See how difficult it is to take Jonak out. You need 3 players there, and now you finally get them. But so you did use the Transcendence a little bit earlier for China. You don't have a big support ult to keep you alive through Carpe's grab here. What are your options? I almost feel like you don't want to use some of these ults for China. You almost want to see if you can draw a lot out for South Korea and then come back in the next fight, see how they decide to play it.
Wow, what a way to make an entrance. Carpe drops down. Goosewick gets the nano boost just to mitigate some of the damage, but with the Discord orb, that's not really going to be an option. And finding the Reinhardt is always priority number 1 in these tank battles. And you'll notice as well, well, you won't notice, but I'll tell you, Jonak has about 1/3 of his team's damage. This permutation of the triple tank, triple support composition that features the Zenyatta without the Ana is always going to be South Korea's go-to, because Jonak can have that much impact as a DPS player.
And China's going to switch over to Lucio. They want to get another fight here. Also give them a little bit more mobility to go in and engage. So maybe you see the EMP plus Shatter here in this closed hallway. There's going to be the EMP. It's pretty big.
Yeah, it gets the backline at the very least of South Korea. Goosewick finds Feta with the Fire Strike. Jonak, he will not be taken down. Carpe to the rescue. Big brother keeping his boy alive. And Jonak just chilling back on that payload with that Transcendence ready to go.
Did you also see from Crystal's POV, he gets Jonak extremely low, but it's Fury there with the defense matrix right from behind. Eats up a lot of those shots as well. You see, you want to pressure Jonak. You fall into this trap where you think that's the way to go about it, but they just play around him and just bait you in and bait you in.
South Korea again, crash upon China like a wave, looking to do some damage here. Carpe's fully charged up, and you can see Lei Young gets that grab going. Transcendence immediately pulled out by Jonak here. Fury still does get desuited before the healing comes in, but it may not be an issue. Sound barrier now. South Korea want to get aggressive. It's a massacre! Oh no! They just collapse on China. Nothing left to do but the crying, man.
So there, they just want to leave Sky alive as long as possible. And China making these changes, they're just trying to find anything that'll work here. They're going to make a change over to Widowmaker, which, you know, Widowmaker against these tanks, it's like they want to get this pick onto Jonak so bad, right? Like, he's the only one you can really do anything with the Widowmaker too. What are you going to do? Just fire into the tanks. You take out Animo there, that's pretty big. It's going to force South Korea to disengage.
Big part of the healing for South Korea is now currently waiting to respawn. Still, Goosewick doesn't want to get too aggressive, but Lee perhaps didn't quite get the memo. That shield's about to break. Goosewick's got to back up. Send the Fire Strike in. He already has an Earth Shatter. He might be forced to use it in just a moment, but he's not about it. He doesn't want to get involved. He lacks his Brigitte.
He needed to break line of sight there because he's trying to get the Discord orb off. When Jonak lands it on him because the shield goes away for a few seconds, there's no other way. He knows that the Discord's on him. They want to pressure him down.
It's like a bad tattoo you got in your teens and you can't get rid of, but that's the Earth Shatter coming down now. Transcendence straight away being used, though, and yeah, the self-destruct catches Goosewick out. He was running on empty in terms of his shield capacity for much of that fight, and they just couldn't hold up in the heat. Carpe now laying down the law, and they get over the line. South Korea, oh dear. Everything they can is being done to snuff out the fire of hope in the Chinese team's heart. They get across the line, and 1 minute and 18 seconds remain in their time bank.
You know, China was just looking for anything, any kind of answer there. And, you know, they thought they had it with the Widowmaker play. And it's interesting because we're watching it from China's perspective. They get the kill onto Animo. They start to push forward, and they think that South Korea is going to back out. And they're like, oh, we have them on their heels. They have no speed boost to get out. We can go pressure them down. And what happens is actually Fate turns and Earth Shatters. And I think that China just kind of like stops in the middle of the hallway, and they're like, well, wait, do they want to fight this? As you see the bubble from Carpe. Locks it all. That is so sick. So that would have been a pretty big shatter as well.
And Gushue, you can see what a coordinated team of experts can do to shut down these individual impact players.
The second he puts his shield down, he has a Discord on. And then, if you don't have your Zarya bubble active to be able to put on him and remove it, he has to go all the way back. So just think about it. His options at that point are to stand there, shield up, die. When he backs up, what happens then to get the Discord off him? Great, the Discord's off, but now you've given up so much space. You pretty much, by you backing up, backed your whole team up into the corner, and there's no way you fight out of that position.
It is incredible what it could do. It's like an indelible stain on you that you cannot wash off. And you hate that. And you have to break LOS, which means you have to give up that ground. The Discord orb in itself is just so incredibly powerful. It's being illustrated here well for South Korea. But now China will step up. The plucky challengers leave as a skirting around the edge of the map.
So this is kind of what I was talking about. Not exactly, but very close to what I was talking about them going with on Ilios when we were talking about, well, what they could have done. The Wrecking Ball Winston Diva combination. They don't want the Brigitte here because how do you get Brigitte up to the high ground, right? I mean, you could speed boost, you're going to be pretty obvious. They want the ability for Crystal to use that Genji, go up and pressure some players out himself.
Carpe will be challenged down, but Crystal probably can't remain here. The follow-up was good from Gushue. That's enough actually to force Carpe out of position, so that, not terrible. But look at the health bars. Look how low Lei Young and Leave are. The tanks for China are really taking a beating here, just trying to set up, and now Carpe's going to punish this. They've lost a healer. Evil Tile is not there. No more AoE healing for those tanks.
Sky has been playing primarily by the statue, towards the right-hand side of the statue if you're coming out of the offensive side. And South Korea has moved to a position to where if he wants to heal the Chinese roster and the Chinese roster wants to put pressure, they have to go around the corner.
Oh no!
Get stuck in the trap with the nano boost.
What a use of ultimates for nothing! A trap! A silly-looking bear trap sat on the ground will secure it and flat up. Trying to burn some rubber, he says, and Crystal incinerated inside his cybernetic armor. And you can see the Junkrat pick. Not one we've seen tons of so far this weekend, but definitely in moments. The Riptire, the kind of thing that should secure you at least one kill. But it was the trap he put down that shut down two ultimates effectively.
And this is one of the harder defensive setups to break, because if you go tank heavy, you're just going to give them a billion Riptires. If you just kind of play passive, you're just going to get poked down on the point as well, and you just have the Diva from the defensive team jump down as you see Carpe just ripping some heads. But the headshot's nice. The thing that's even worse for China is that there's nobody there pressuring him out. You're not making the headshots hard to hit.
Carpe can just bound through the fields here as he tries to set up in the back line. Again, he'll just go to the high ground, grappling up there. He'll be ready.
So here's the thing. You'll have the Nano Blade potentially, but you don't have like an EMP to take some of these abilities offline. So
you still have to worry about crowd control effects applied to Crystal as he goes in for his valiant attempt.
Got to worry about like traps and remote mines and whatnot. So
okay. Good little combination there. Crystal, oh, it's trapped again! He can't get out!
I jinxed him.
He doesn't look like a marsupial to me, but I guess South Korea see things differently. Oh man, that's so rough. Talk about pest extermination there. However, Carpe does go down to the minefield that Lee drops up on that high ground. You can see it across the way here. So Fletter now has to step up and provide the bulk of that damage. It's less direct than a headshot from a Widowmaker, to be sure. But a Riptire here from Fletter in a few moments might be enough to tip the scales back in favor. It's coming in over the top. No, the shield was there. Crystal takes to the skies though. Now with that Dragon Blade once more. Does not find what he needs, but Fletter fell to Lei Young. Now South Korea, it's more just a token defense here they're trying to set up, and yeah. Avert your eyes if you're easily squeamish. The Chinese squad get their revenge and will take point A.
Yes, there the Genji pays off for Crystal, but they may have caught it for a split second there, but Jonak uses Transcendence as Animo is going in for a res, and it gets broken up, and that's how they end up backing out around the corner. South Korea wanted to fight that longer. They wanted to have some players come off of respawn and really give that a shot at a full hold, but once that res gets denied, they have no chance.
Interesting how Carpe was felled by the minefield there. It's unclear if he was sort of knocked into it by the Primal Rage, or if he didn't know it was there. I'd say it's more like
this is what we gave China props for in our last series. They made adjustments really fast and changes. South Korea, they were like, okay, they have the Genji, let's go over to Winston and we'll play, you know, the Zarya as well for Carpe. China changes right away. They bring in a Pharah. They have no answer for this.
He Fate took 2 direct hits and immediately was forced straight back. Jonak, that's another hit. He wants to stay and fight. Only Jonak would try for that and flip. What? He hits the whip shot from the ground. You can leave your Nene at home. That was enough for me. Self-destruct comes through. Gooch Shui taken down. Attempted to res by Evil Tal, denied. Lei Young trying to back up. Leave is grounded. Stay in your room.
I got to see that whip shot again. So Jonak, look, he has no mercy pocket. He's just out in the middle of the street. How many Zens are like, okay, I'll fight this? And especially when he doesn't have first shot, right? When you do have Crystal Lana Rocket on him early, and he's weak, he's like, all right, I'll give you the advantage. I'm gonna challenge this. As here comes a grab. You're only gonna connect with Lei Young here, so you will get the DMAC, but China may be able to still push on this, and now you get the Transcendence out. So you're China, you can back out of this, try and build up some more ults.
Yeah, not much to be done. Barrage's response, that's risky!
Get two, though.
He still gets two despite the presence of the D.Va in the defense matrix, and Fate's trying to follow up now and slow things down for China. He doesn't want to give them this opening, so now he's going to duel with Sky, trying to dodge the sleep. Sky desperately, but Fate, he's just giving him the old two-step, the old Frank Sinatra. I'll drop back down on the payload now. Animo did go missing. China look like they're trying to make these fights chaotic, which is something that Seoul Dynasty specifically struggled with throughout the Overwatch League as an all-Korean roster. Chaotic gameplay. Looks like China were born into it, molded by it.
You can do a ton of damage with Doomfist through the second stage of the map. So you do see them get behind, leaves Doomfist, get aggressive. They're going to stay on the Doom-Pharah combination here. South Korea not going to make any changes, it looks like. They're going to keep rolling out with this. As Carpe has put down a considerable amount of damage on Zarya. You want to use his bubbles to soak up a lot of that Pharah damage and turn that into offense. Only 30 seconds left. You also probably feel like if you get a Graviton Surge here, the game is yours.
Crystal encroaching. Definitely wanted to charge up a quick barrage. It's going to be so Sound Barrier quickly brought out of Animo, though. That decays awfully fast, but it's enough time to deal with lead. Fleur taking damage on the low ground. Crystal knows he has to back away. It's very unlikely
They're not going to get another fight.
Too much more going here. They have to remain. The barrage is there. It's going to have to be a risky run. The self-destruct, though. Crystal didn't quite know where it was, and it claimed Evil Tal. He was right behind Crystal. The Pharah got the safety, but the Mercy was left out to dry. And now Fleta, wax on, wax off, all the way to the bank. South Korea take map 2.
It's a much stronger effort for China in map number 2, though. Very good idea to go over to the Pharah Doom. Second stage of the map, they just got kind of stalled, getting through that initial choke point for a little bit too long. They couldn't really break South Korea's defense to take the point rather quickly, so they put themselves behind in terms of time. But you see the adjustments they make towards the second part of that map. They're able to make a little bit of progress, but South Korea just still too strong.
We've seen it time and time again. This team from South Korea are underestimated, their dominance denied, and they come and prove everybody wrong. But China are still in this one. It's a best of 7, and we'll see the rest of it after the break.
The Overwatch World Cup is brought to you by Omen by HP, the official PC of the Overwatch World Cup, and by T-Mobile, America's fastest unlimited network.
They don't just play for a team. They play for every fan, every rival, every moment, every match. And when everyone watching expects the best, they perform with the best.
The 2018 Overwatch World Cup is brought to you in part by Corsair, T-Mobile, Samsung SSD, and NVIDIA.
Welcome back to the half here, as South Korea currently up 2-0 in our gold medal match here at BlizzCon. You got Golden Boy, Brent Reinforced, Sideshow, and Papow really quick. Okay, so, well, I would say those first two games are pretty quick. And that's something that really bums me out, because I really thought that we were going to get, I kind of expected the control to go for South Korea, but I really, really felt that King's Row could have been the Chinese map where they would have been able to tie this up.
China looked so dominant versus Finland and then Canada, so we legitimately thought they had a chance to go up against South Korea, but South Korea is just such a beast in and of itself, so I mean, it just changes the entire game, really.
Yeah, that's very true. But standing by, we actually have a very special guest. My BFF, the CEO of T-Mobile. We got the one and only John Ledger standing by with Puckett. What's going on?
Thank you so much, Golden Boy. I stole your BFF. He's mine now, buddy. We're going to be cooking with him here soon. But, John, awesome to have you back here at the Overwatch World Cup. What are you thinking about this final so far?
I'll tell you what, watching the best players in the world do their stuff, and look at this crowd. There's no place I'd rather be. It's amazing.
It has been absolutely amazing. And now on my card, it says, I heard it's not your first time. I've seen you here multiple years in a row, but officially, how many times have you been at BlizzCon?
So this is my 4th BlizzCon, and I'm not just a drop-in. I'm opening ceremonies till the closing. My daughter's here with me. She's a hardcore. Her whole guild from World of Warcraft is here. And I would say one of the biggest perks of my job that she loves is being able to be here with this crowd, start to end.
I love it. Give it up for John and his whole family coming out here today. Yes, love it. Now, John, I have to thank you not only for the cell phone in my back pocket, but for all of the support you've shown us across the year, across the world. Everyone has been able to tune in to the Overwatch World Cup, and you've empowered the people to help chime in on who they think should be the MVP. For anyone who doesn't know out there, how can they get involved?
So we are the presenting sponsor of the Overwatch World Cup MVP, and we want the fans to vote. You can still go to Twitter, use hashtag T-Mobile MVP, pick your favorite player. If you're watching on Twitch, there's a voting overlay on the video portal, makes it very easy. And at the end, we're gonna have a magenta moment, give out the MVP, and I can't wait.
Can't wait for it. That's coming up after the finals. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time, give it up for the CEO of America's fastest unlimited network, T-Mobile. John, thank you so much. Golden Boy, let's send it back to the desk.
Thank you so much, Puckett. Thank you so much, John, for that as well. And, you know, I do want to say that the T-Mobile MVP has been so significant that ever since last year when we did it, people still talk about the hashtag T-Mobile or exclamation point T-Mobile MVP to this day, and we get to do it again here at BlizzCon. Go again. All right, well, let's go ahead and break things down for games 1 and 2. And I do want to also comment here on China, because yes, I picked China. We kind of bought into the hype of China here. You curse them. I try to motivate them. And the reason why was because I feel like mechanically this team is very, very strong.
I agree.
But when you're on that stage and we walked out there and you see that sea of humanity that is circling around you in the arena, there's a lot of pressure on those 6 young men to bring home this gold medal.
That's absolutely true. There is a lot of pressure, but I wouldn't describe this as China playing not up to their potential. I think we've seen individually excellent stuff from them. I think this is just how good South Korea are. And the fact that they love playing China's style, where it's about these high-tempo decision-making plays. The decisions that China are making are fast, but South Korea are always one step ahead, and they have the individual skill to be able to match. We were talking all tournament long. China force you to adapt. Korea are the kings of adapting.
And it's incredible how, as well, early on when they made the decision to cut a lot of the players from the Korean roster, replace them with 3 new ones, so late into the decision-making process, right? And they've managed to actually come this far still. And at the time, a lot of people, they were raising some question marks, weren't they? Like, I know multiple tweets. I'm going to call out Wolf in particular. He put out a nice little tweet, didn't he, saying that, you know, this is a terrible decision or whatever they were making. But generally, I think that this Korean roster is the strongest it could possibly be in terms of what they put together and showing it.
In terms of peak, absolutely. And one underappreciated aspect that we haven't really talked about is the fact that these two teams, they were practice partners going into the World Cup. When we sat in that team meeting,
I didn't know that.
With Team China, they said that they actively scrimmed Korea going into this. It's the same region, and they spent a lot of time together practicing for the World Cup. They were opposite side of the bracket, and they all came to the grand final. So they have a lot of experience playing against each other, and it's really showing here where I think that China are not really comfortable doing any pocket picks or so because of that, because they just want to play the game they know how to play and try to match South Korea.
Yeah, no, it's in my notes right here. Scrimmed versus Korean team, and you didn't pay attention in the meeting. So that's basically what that tells me, Fred.
I've been thrown under a bus.
Yeah,
you just chucked me straight under there.
You go under the trolley there, my friend.
Lord. What is wrong with you? I got to feed myself. I don't have kids to feed, but I got to feed myself, bro.
You gotta feed yourself. All right, well, now we have to discuss the possibility of China coming back into this. Do you think they have the mental fortitude to be able to climb their way back into this match, Reinforce?
This is absolutely the time you should ask Bren.
Bren,
directed to
do
me, baby.
you think
I'm ready to take
that China have the mental fortitude to climb their way back into this match?
Anything is possible in the wide world of Overwatch. We know this from the lore, from the gameplay,
from the quarterfinals between UK and USA.
He's analyzing from the lore.
He went lore, people. Hashtag we lore
Anything
now.
is possible, realistically. Do I think it's going to be happening? No, I'm going to make the Bren flip-flop. I'm going over to the Korean side. I've just seen them get 2 very dominant rounds on Ilios, absolutely dominate on King's Row again. They seem very comfortable right now. I don't want to count out China too quickly, despite the fact that I think Korea is going to take this match. But, you know, it's looking right now that Korea have got China's number.
It's an uphill battle. Then, Golden Boy, you must search for the answers alone.
I must.
China.
I must search for the. What is going on here? Why am I being touched so much? This is probably the one event I've ever worked where I've been just fondled way too much. You know, I'm still going to stick to my guns. I think China's going to get that bread.
I appreciate it.
I really, really do. It's not like a feelings thing or something like that. You look at the stats. You look at how China got to this point.
Yeah.
Finland, strong team that we all thought were going to be in the finals.
Yeah.
Then they do it again. They take out Canada. And when I spoke to Agilities, we actually ran into each other in the back. He was like, dude, they were just throwing weird things at us, and we just didn't really know what to do. So you look at all that, and you have to have it in your mind that there's a possibility that this Chinese team can win.
There's a possibility.
And, okay, yes.
Can I get some numbers
aside.
from you,
Snarkiness aside.
Yeah. Let me just
give me
where's the abacus?
Yeah. But, and again, that's why I said that mechanically speaking, this Chinese team, they are very good. I do think, though, that there is a lot of mental pressure on them. It is loud out there. It is booming. Everyone's cheering. Everyone's going nuts, which, by the way, shout out to you all in the arena for bringing the hype.
There you go.
But yeah, side note, I mean, Korea's just so much better, right? It's just, there's no. I mean,
they genuinely are so incredible that you can't even pick an MVP from the roster.
I literally got cut from this conversation.
Team China, you could pick an MVP, or maybe 2.
But are they really MVPs if they're not winning Sideshow?
Well, there you go. That's a question in and of itself. Short played pretty well. He's not really in the
I love South Korea.
I got cut from this conversation, and I'm the host of the desk. This isn't fair. It's not fair at all. And then you're a traitor. So there's just so many things, so many feelings and emotions out here. But it's time to get into our next matchup. I need everyone in the arena to get hype, get loud. It's time to go into game number 3. Let's send it back over to your casters, Uber and Mr. X.
Perhaps we shouldn't have been too shocked, perhaps, to see the gulf between these two teams. And I think it was brought up on the desk pretty effectively that this is kind of the super team in Overwatch in the world that we're seeing on South Korea.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking during the break. I was like, if this roster existed in the Overwatch League, I was like, could have made like almost like a perfect run. I think a big reason why they've had so much success, at this event specifically is Jonak. I mean, we talked about him so much during the Overwatch League, but just look at the damage done. That is Now, he is leading South Korea in damage on King's Row by over 1,000.
Yeah, it's worth pointing out that damage value, it accounts for about 23% of his whole team's damage. So almost a quarter coming from just his Zenyatta player, and the healing was about 45%.
It's nuts, the things that he does, and that you look at it, you know, the productivity of him on Zenyatta versus the other Zenyatas, and you're missing out on like so much damage, like 7,000 damage a game, where it's such a large, it's basically like playing triple DPS without committing to have a third DPS and having support ultimates instead. So it's just massive. You can do so many things with him on the roster and playing that hero, that where a lot of times you would have to switch your composition to make things work. You just put him in a different position and you can make things work around it. So
now, this is something, Matt, we don't get to see as much of, right? The Jonak Ana play potentially on the attacking side. We'll see if it stays with that. But China marched back out onto the stage with determination.
It'll be South Korea here on offense to kick things off. I'm interested why China chose this map. I think we'll find out as it progresses, because on defense, South Korea could play exactly what they just played on King's Row with the Junkrat and the Widowmaker, and it's even more punishing trying to get to the high ground here, which China struggled with before. So we'll see how they play this defensively, China, and then we'll see what happens when we go to their offensive side.
We saw this earlier on from China. Definitely playing a little bit more of a razor's edge kind of defense. By that I mean the tanks are positioned forward in positions that South Korea can't actually see them, and they want to drop down and they want to bring the fight to South Korea before they have a chance to set up.
See, South Korea, though, they realize that there's nobody that can punish them from the high ground like a Widowmaker, and they go 3 tanks, 3 supports, because there's no reason for them to really challenge at high ground. As long as they take the fight on the point in these close quarter areas, they're going to have the advantage.
Look at Kushui, he almost went down. He and Lei Young were out of sync, diving onto that high ground. So Lei Young goes up, drops down, almost dead, and then Kushui does the same thing and takes a bucket of damage. Jonak and Crystal are kills that are traded out here. Eviltal was able to get up close and personal and remove the Zenyatta. But Fake can just jump back in now. Gets a bubble, of course, given to him from Carpe, who's charging up towards that Graviton surging. Flatter once again is in the mix. This is a dangerous situation here for old mate Sky, as Fate just giving him a tickle from the high ground. China just being bundled out.
It's exactly what I was just talking about. They did not worry about getting picked off from the high ground, playing from the point. They run right to the point. And then, South Korea gets very close to taking it. And then what? China has to dive on in. And that's exactly where South Korea wants to fight them. Carpe's going to have a grab here. You already have the effects of rally. They want to get this D-Mech before they use the grab. No chance of it getting eaten here.
Carpe just sees leave inside. And he goes, yeah, it's time to Graviton. We call that one the leave it, fam. He gets knocked away from the point, 100 charge. And now Flatter's going to deal with Crystal. China, they've got plenty of flashy plays, Matt. Some exciting heroes, a lot of dive, a lot of aggression, a lot of smoke and mirrors. But to South Korea, it's just another brick in the wall, another step on the road, and they're dominating on this point B.
Yeah, they've already used the EMP, and Crystal has to switch off of Sombra here just to try and get back larger HP pool. So there was nothing to remove the effects of all that shielding that came through from the sound barrier, as this would be real bad for China, Mitch. This would be a tremendous time here. South Korea can take this soon.
Jonak with 2 kills there, as he's been given enough space to work. You can see the Maestro pulling the strings right now. Lei Young ejected quickly, executed. Jonak standing back. Look how much health this guy has. He's like a tank that deals damage at the same time. It's just gross. 300. That armor, they're going a long way, and now he is just dishing it out. No one can stop this squad. And we should have known beforehand. How could we ever have doubted? South Korea looked to be completely unperturbed by the approach that China took, and that was a blisteringly fast pace.
It's China just getting out-comped there at the beginning, and it's the same thing in the previous match on this map that we cast with China, where they did a different look. They ran Winston Zarya, but that time South Korea realized, okay, if we get to the point and force the close quarter engagement, we're going to have the advantage in terms of healing and then overall health pools. We're going to take this fight. And they just ran straight up to the high ground, and then at that point, China can't just go to the low ground, because then South Korea's just going to jump on them. So what do? They try and follow them up the back of the staircase, and then South Korea just jumps on the point. And then they start to cap it. We're almost at 75%, and China's like, well, we can't go to the high ground and then jump down and contest and try and pick one and burst one down. We have to just go fight it. And they just kind of jump in all at the same time. They get taken out, and the rally comes through, and there's really no fighting back from that.
South Korea just wanted to do away with all the pleasantries. A very direct approach to capturing both of those points. China will need to follow suit. South Korea, so far the composition actually looks like something we've seen before on this map. Now, we did actually see Australia try that super high ground Orisa play. We may not actually see that here.
And this is what South Korea exactly ran on defense on Kings Row, like I was mentioning. You ran the same type of composition this time, though, as opposed to Kings Row on Anubis. You can play even further back, and the high ground is even more punishing. See what China decides to do. It looks like they're going to come out, they're going to try and play for point.
This is an old school composition, though, Matt. Like, we used to see this sort of early on in the Overwatch League. A lot of poke damage, hard to dive on. Flate and Fed are going to cause you problems, and Carpe has all this room up here.
It says a lot for this composition that has survived pretty much every meta change we have seen this far. There is a reason the defensive composition from South Korea is still getting played. It is that good here on the Temple of Anubis. So they go with Leave on Doomfist, like we talked about earlier. When you have this position as the Widowmaker, if Doomfist does not get up there and take care of you quick, you have used every movement ability, you are stuck. Carpe actually plays the lower bridge, which is super smart now, because if they use the movement abilities to get in and get on top, he just goes back.
He anticipated the switch to Widow here.
Yes, they do get the Widow in.
And that's why Carpe dropped down, because he has no shielding on the high ground, but he might be a little bit caught here. Anamo dutifully keeping Carpe topped up, and now he'll take to the skies. Jump shot doesn't really reveal any targets for him. China a little bit split here at the moment. Crystal is actually flanking behind. They need to keep Gooseway alive. It's very important. Leave is low. He needs to drop off the high ground. There's a couple seconds now for Carpe to reign supreme in the sniper battle. Leave again presents himself, and Fate was just peeking out through his shield. Part of his character model had protruded slightly, so Leave was able to get the shot. Leave is pulled off of the high ground, though. There is fighting happening on the point currently. Crystal goes down to Jonak. Riptire, he's always going to get you a kill. And Flutter makes sure of that one. Evil Tile falls and the D-sit on Late Young, which means that China have pretty much no resources left to take this point. This Primal Rage should really only be for survival, and even then, it doesn't seem super convincing. China might try and again engage off the back of it.
Yeah, they do force this Valkyrie, though, from Animo. So Gushue uses the Primal Rage. They know they have the spawn advantage being on the offensive side. They track down Carpe. Jonak coming back from spawn. May not even make it in time. Flooded does make a change over to Brigitte as well.
Yeah, they caught Carpe out really nicely. Fate stayed alive a bit longer than he had any other business doing, but China now have the position. They also have a Dragon Blade if they do need to go for that. Likely it actually gets held until Sky has his nano boost.
He's going to have it within the first few seconds of this fight. South Korea wants to fight it as well. Yep. They're not giving up on this.
Fate switched Winston as well, so he'll be back at the point a little bit faster, but South Korea need to do without him for the time being. Animo can't stand up with it. He's cut down. Jonak is the second. 2 supports and Fury down for the price of 1 blade, and Crystal can't be happier than that.
I'll tell you what, if you're South Korea, you're pretty happy, though. As you went to contest that, it did force them to use the Nano Blade combination. If China comes in with Nano Blade, 2-point B, having both of those ultimates, they have a good chance to set a very good time of their own.
Well, that contest, the late contest, yeah, you're right. It can be risky, but it's also important to force that extra ults because South Korea are about to make a change in comp. So they want to even the playing field in terms of those ultimate percentages. Obviously, after you switch heroes, you get reset to 0. 2 self-destructs going in. Carpe found Crystal, and the fight seems to be taken to the low ground now. Looks like the moat will run with blood. Sleeves is going to be pushed on out. Carpe chasing down 90 charge. He's hitting very, very hard right now, and the rest of China will be chased down. The longer this takes, the longer that Late Young is running around with nothing but a Bunny Blaster to defend himself, the longer it'll be before China can reconvene as 6.
And we'll see how aggressive South Korea plays this. If you remember China versus Canada, they got right up to the choke point. They did not even want Canada out of the spawn. It looks like South Korea is playing this a little bit further back. They're playing back by the initial choke because you would make the entrance way through the arch here towards point B. How fast do they react? How fast do they bring the pressure to China?
Transcendence for Jonak. Again, note 300 health. So Fleder's rally is giving him armor that doesn't get taken away until Jonak's shield is compromised, which is hard to do. This man is hard enough to kill as it is. Frontline Jonak, yeah, I'll take that one too. Lee just being bustled on out of there. The Discord Orb making it pretty much impossible for him to stand and fight. Evil Tile lucky to get away with his life, but Lee won't be so fortunate. And now China are behind. Even if they finish the map, they cannot do it in as expedient a fashion as South Korea. They've got 3 minutes and 50 seconds on the clock.
And if you're China, what do? Do you make a change here? Do you invest some ultimates at the beginning? I almost feel like you're better off like If you do want to make a change, just using your ults, try and force some stuff out of Korea, then go back and make a change. But I think South Korea is so disciplined, they would read right into that.
You're getting
grabbed
here.
For it.
You're going to get grabbed here if the fight goes any longer than otherwise should.
I think he'll save it.
Carpe doesn't need to after his first 2 picks coming in, but if that was any kind of close thing, he just pops that off straight away in a 6v6 and secures it. But he's happy enough to hold on to that one. Not a huge amount of charge for him in that previous fight. There was quite a break between them. You will notice that that energy will tick down over time. But 6 ultimates for South Korea. A clear sign that they're not being pressured sufficiently by China. None of those ultimates are being drawn out.
No, and China used a rally there. Probably try and scare them a little bit, maybe to use barrier or their own rally, but you have everything here for South Korea. Fate just lurking up here in the Raptors. He's gonna jump right on top of Sky. They're gonna try and burst him down. Maybe like a speed boost and jump on in.
It needs to be some kind of burst. Now, I don't mind if Fate has to use a jump to get each here. And he has a riot. Oh, he is in town. The Graviton Surge is self-destruct. Everything you could ever want. South Korea just flashed it for you here. And they still have more to show. Still have 2 support ultimates. Still have a Primal Rage. They are sitting pretty straight chilling by the pool.
And they have not been forced to use, whether it's the Sound Barrier or the Transcendence thus far. Tells you they haven't really been pressured at all. And now, when does Lieb even have a good opportunity to use this grab? South Korea playing so kind of spread out from each other, you're not going to land a big one. And you know that they have both support ult, so you can't even try and force them out. Here we go again, though.
Oh, I'm getting deja vu, man. I'm not sure why. Fate drops in shields, immediately applied down the Sound Barrier. China want to fight, they want to brawl. They want to get it done here. Fate has a Primal Rage though, and that could be super nasty in this close space. Transcendence will definitely help out Jonak. A lot of healing going over to the rest of South Korea. Lei Young's taken down. Sound Barrier now from South Korea. Crystal has fallen. Sky get punched into next Tuesday. And South Korea, perhaps a sign of respect that they went to use those 2 support ults, but trying to come out with nothing still.
And it's even worse, Mitch, because you can see Lieb use that Graviton Surge. They got nothing out of it because Fury sucked it right up. As soon as they dove, he knew they were probably going to turn, throw that grab on in. They get nothing with that, and that is a tough one. So we'll bring in the Reinhardt here, but Ryan, when you dive him, you can swing the hammer. You're going to put a lot of pressure on the supports to play around and keep him up.
Rally being used by China now. Somewhat disheartened, I'm sure, but still ready to fight until the last. They'll approach the point. They get there this time, at the very least. They haven't been accosted halfway by South Korea. Fighting on the point now, and Crystal again, keeping those swings going, keeping that morale high. Flatter is the first to go down. Carpe, Graviton Surge, he might be able to turn this back around. He fires it off, it's not even up. Now the self-destruct, oh no! Fury falls to that one, Evil Tool drops as well. Q-Sway getting a lot of healing on the point, but it's a Primal Rage Fate. He's definitely going to have plenty of health. Carpe knocked into the wall by Q-Sway, but that was definitely just a valiant last stand for the Reinhardt player. And he is also dealt with, and now China are down to their final chance. Earthshatter, Graviton potentially available, maybe a Sound Barrier, but that's going to be it.
You know, it's interesting because when you're playing Winston, you can, when you want to get the discords on the main tanks, right? Speaking to everybody here, that's kind of the key when you play this type of composition. Winston's able to just dart around the walls here on Anubis. You can hit that off you rather quickly. Now Fate plays Reinhardt, so you want to do the Rein versus Rein matchup. Fleta using the rally here, getting everybody topped up on armor before the final fight begins.
Lee notices Carpe is low. Earthshatter comes in. Does affect at least Fate. He gets knocked down, but Crystal is removed very quickly. There's a Graviton there for Lee. This has to be the answer. This has to get him out of this tricky situation. Q-Sway desperately tries to fire strike into the Graviton, but now the Sound Barrier. They're too tanky. There's too much health on South Korea. They can't be dragged down by this. Lei Young with a self-destruct on the point. No one dares to see it though, just for show at this stage. Fury's mech was removed, but that's about it. Lei Young suffers a similar fate in South Korea. Another notch in the belt. But at this rate, they'll be eating well tonight.
Only one game away. Completing the three-peat here at the Overwatch World Cup, but they look so strong. Whatever China decides to do compositionally, changing up some strategies, it just looks like they have the answer every single time.
It's been discussed, especially when we compare regions in Overwatch. It's something we often do. It's interesting. It's fun. South Korea obviously not initially in the Overwatch world, but very quickly became the dominant force. China obviously was a region we didn't get to see much of. It was very much internal play that they saw. And we've been saying, the Western scene definitely seems to be catching up a little bit now. The Overwatch League has created an ecosystem on which these teams can improve in parallel. but this is still the strongest team we've seen from South Korea, a product, of course, of all players that have competed in the Overwatch League and have achieved great success, and you take the very best of those teams, and this is what you have standing in front of you.
And I think China probably has to be a little bit surprised that this is how the game has gone this far, because look, China's looked very strong up until this point. They still look to have it mechanically. It just looks like some of the teamwork stuff, kind of out of sync here. But South Korea, Australia gave them some moments where it looked like they could turn a few maps around. It's like the match against the UK, we had the draws over and over again. They were really bringing it to South Korea. But in this match, with all the pressure on, they've just hit another level.
It also seems that, well, first of all, it was mentioned on the desk, importantly, that South Korea and China were scrim partners. So difficult to sort of sneak things in under their nose in this particular match, but that's how it works. You do choose teams on the other side of the bracket as scrim partners in tournaments like this, accepting the possibility that you eventually go head-to-head. It definitely seems like South Korea had more issues with what the United Kingdom were playing, and they definitely seem quite consistent with how their comp played out, and of course with some big individual performances. But for China, it definitely seems like South Korea were ready for this. They've not really been frazzled by any of these weird angles or looks that China have been throwing at them.
Yeah, some of the standout players that we've seen for China thus far have not really had those crazy performances. You look at Late Young, who's been very strong on D.Va throughout. Look at what Fury did that match, man. Fury was insane. Ate one of those Graviton surges towards the end of the game, which was a huge ultimate that China had that could have maybe, allowed them to get towards that point. You see the damage, the final blows. Obviously, South Korea is rolling. They're really dominating a lot of these fights, but still, those numbers are hard to deny.
But he's also done such a great job at shutting down opportunities from China. The Graviton that was eaten towards the end of that round was huge. Let's have a look back, I guess, over what we saw transpire in map number 3. Starting from, obviously, the unkillable tank god, Jonak, that extra armor. It's almost like he doesn't need it.
But once he does get it, it's hard to get it off of him, right? You want to dive him, but with the shields above armor, those recharge, so you never really even get to the point of getting that armor off. And it's keeping him alive. He does so much damage, but the discords it provides for the rest of the team, it's massive.
Fleta displaying some of that Junkrat play on that first point, and China were hard-pressed to take it. We did see South Korea try and fight with just 4 players, and this is what Crystal had to do to get them off of the point. Yeah, it's nice, but it's a lot of ultimates that have been invested in this, and with South Korea making hero switches of their own, it kind of reset the playing field, it evened it up, and gave South Korea a chance to build up to 6 ults like they had here. And this was just filthy.
See the self-destruct come in, and China, they know there's nothing they could do about it here. It picks up 2, but really ends the fight right there. And in kind of these winning moments, it didn't even really look like South Korea were pushed to have their backs against the wall. It looked like they were always in a comfortable position. And with how talented their players are, you cannot do that. I'm interested in China, it's so much we've talked about, earlier in the tournament, is that a lot of these teams, they run some really weird stuff. Johnny talking about back in the group stages where they pull out the Bastion against them.
Against the quad tank or the triple tank composition.
It's like, if that's your strength, why go away from it now?
Does that work here, though? Can you explain to me why it seems like the effort required for South Korea seems to be much less in this match than it was against the United Kingdom?
Well, it just seems like they know what they're going to be playing against when China is going to run the triple tank, triple support, and then Korea is like, well, okay, we trust our teamwork, we'll just do it better. And they're so experienced, right? The only roster here where all 6 players were in the Overwatch League last year, that this doesn't really probably phase them as much as, the Chinese players, right? They're all kind of new. You did have Sky in the Overwatch League last year with the Shanghai Dragons, but didn't play a ton. So it's a huge difference here.
Here we have substitution as well. So Shy will come back into the lineup here for Sky, which is great. So now I can't confuse them with the ring game at the same time. You'd love to see that. But this is definitely indicative of China trying to come up with an answer to what South Korea are bringing. I'm kind of excited, Matt, because our next map is going to be Watchpoint Gibraltar, which is very interesting map and kind of unique in many ways as a pure escort game type.
I mean, you could run, it's kind of a way back old school strategy. You could run like triple DPS if you wanted here for China, right? This is one of the
Misfits strat.
Yeah, the original maps where you would see like, your Widowmaker with your Tracer Genji and, Winston solo tank. If anyone could probably do the Winston solo tank, pull that off, it is Yushui. So we'll see what China decides to do here. You do bring in an interesting lineup here. We haven't seen their series get pushed this far, so we don't know if this is a strategy that they've always had or this is something they're coming up with on the fly.
I mean, this map is a map with a lot of verticality, a lot of high places, a lot of high platforms, and in between those platforms are vast expanses of very little. So we have often seen heroes valued for their ability to cross these gaps quickly, like Winston and such, and also heroes with the ability to interact over long distances, like Ana as a support hero, and the Widowmaker, of course, just to deal death from afar. So if you have that combination of heroes, you kind of have an idea of maybe what China are going to try and provide here. They're expecting to brawl. Crystal is going to be there on that Brigitte, which is somewhat interesting. They do have Shy, though, being brought in here potentially just for that Widowmaker play. That a super sub here for China. He must be the answer. This is the last chance China have to stay in this gold medal match.
And you're also putting Leave on the Zenyatta. So you have your 2 DPS players from the previous map now picking up supports. Not really too surprising to see a DPS player pick up the Brigitte. That's usually one we see, but to have Leave, who's had such a strong Doomfist and like the Pharah and all these other different heroes, now picking up the Zen, that'll be interesting to see.
Very much so. We know he's a man of many talents, and in a team and in a meta where you do have to often play more tanks than normal, it's maybe not so shocking, but South Korea, much work to do here. Flutter will just be pushing forward initially, so, you know, he'll respect that Fate and Gushue want to have their gentleman's battle. He doesn't really want to get zapped by that Tesla cannon too much anyway. And Carpe will be setting up probably to the left of screen. Yeah, you can see him just up the top there waiting to see if China want to try and get aggressive.
You know, this is one of the stronger combinations, you know, between Carpe and Flutter's hero pools. You could make a case that these are each of their best heroes here, that they can play for a very long time on Watchpoint Gibraltar because of the verticality. And you see Animo on the Ana. That's kind of why he was brought into this roster late, because they felt that his Ana was just a tier ahead of Arcs.
Carpe now wants to push forward. Jonak was caught by Gushue, gets a second there as well. Very effective push for him, of course, with that nano boost, which goes a long way for Winston, who would like nothing more than to deliver that extra damage right to the face. That will slow South Korea down.
Well, you are building up to this Nano Blade very quickly for South Korea, and because China has not been able to put down a ton of damage from their Zen, you're not going to have like a Transcendence, even if you did. You know, the Nano Blade's so devastating that. See what Fleta decides to do with it. They have the Blade, they have the Nano. I think they're trying to figure out where the supports are.
Tries down. That's the Widowmaker battle won by Carpe. And that's one less player for South Korea to worry about. Now Fleta might just be finishing the job here. He gets stunned as he hits the ground. Crystal knocks him back desperately with that whip shot, but he will be hunted down. Just the one kill though, but Carpe's out here doing the rest of the work. Lei Young's on the payload, desuited. Carpe finds it. That ejected, that pilot diva model is very thin, very hard to hit. But for Carpe, it may as well be a barn door.
And you won't fight this again. You won't get an opportunity to. Everybody who spawns close decides to back up.
Oh, that's filthy!
Oh. So it's like, we were talking before. You know, South Korea probably has the strongest double sniper setup you can have. And I feel like China, you know, they're playing it now, and they could be playing with trouble, right? If Fleta decides to go Hanzo, you know, it could get pretty scary.
I mean, are you really trying to play them in their own game?
Yeah, that's the craziest part about it.
Carpe backs up. He obviously has vision at least on Lei Young's position because of that poison mine. Obviously, we'll reveal him through walls for a time. So, valuable information. Carpe knows that, you know, he needs to worry about Lei Young, of course, and Gushue. Gushue himself, who drops down to the low ground, takes a ton of damage, but it's because he has his primal rage available. Now he's going to try and hunt Carpe across the map. Couple more flying fists and will have to kill, but it's traded out. Fate does the same thing. He goes into the back line of China and gets rid of Iveldo. Transcendence now for South Korea, and also for China. They're trying to mirror each other as much as they can. China, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, but when you measure these two teams up, it looks like China struggling to get close. Crystal, though, Dragon Strike getting rid of Jonak is a good start, and it will end the fight.
But yet again, you have this great combination. Genji Blade plus the Nano Boost available for South Korea in the next fight. Now, China will probably play, you know, their snipers up on the high ground. You can spread out a little bit. You can make it very difficult to connect with, you know, multiple players. Not going to see like a big 3 or 4K here, most likely, with it. But you're going to connect with at least, you know, maybe 1 or 2. It's just who do you decide to go with? Because looks like the supports for China, you know, on the minimap spreading out quite far.
Yeah, I mean, he wants that nano boost. He's also taking his time. He doesn't really want to use it on tanks. The rest of China is so far back that they split themselves in a big way. That's where that mobility and gap closing potential is so important on this map. Gushui hasn't received that healing that he's been looking for quite yet. And Flutter might chase this as an opportunity to go in. Lead! Where did he even go? He just disappeared, deleted from the game. Gushui as well fell with the Dragon Blade. Now Crystal had to hold that arrow. Flutter was going to send it right back. And now they can sit on the high ground. In the meantime, of course, the payload is just moving forward. Now, China, they're being staggered out. This is essentially a stagger. Crystal trying to win the battle out, but even the rapid fire Hanzo can't get the job done. Somebody stop this man! Flutter is out of control! China finally chime in and find a response, but is it enough? Fury desuited here, and it looks like, yes, it is. South Korea had to back away, despite the valiant attempts of Flutter to change it.
That is a great fight win, though, for China. That is a fight that looks like it's going in South Korea's favor. They do a nice job. You know, I was talking about how China was splitting out. They were spreading out, so you weren't able to get a ton with the Dragon Blade. What happens, though? Carpe uses Infrasight, so they're able to plan where they want to go with the Dragon Blade off of all that information.
Crystal could see all of this, very quickly sends the Dragon Strike, but you got to get up early in the morning if you want to trick South Korea with that one. And just move right out the way. Anamo actually having switched off the Ana is the reason they were able to avoid losing the fight immediately. The speed boost gets them out of trouble, and now they can reset, go again. Crystal's ult. Ready for nothing. And you see Primal Rage now, Gushui in the backline. Fury trying to sort of slow him down, but Defense Matrix doesn't stop this kind of close quarters combat. And he forces that transcendence on out of Jonak. Anamo goes down early in the fight. Shy finds the pick, but he's lost Crystal and Neve now. He's going to do something incredible in the backline, but the Snow Dome, the bubble, is keeping South Korea well protected from the long-range damage of that Widowmaker. Fury gets a health pack, a repair pack, and is sent on in to get the job done. Shy is felled. And it looks like China will be struggling to contest this. They go once more. Gushui drops in. Lee comes in with a Transcendence. Splatter is a little low, so he backs away. Rally being used now. And a self-destruct in over the top. China pokes the heads out now. The explosion is done. And Crystal just trying to get damage in from the door, but he can't commit physically to the area of the payload. Lei Young is down. Second checkpoint, South Korea.
And I love how, you know, before we get that final fight on point B, some extra players spawning up here, some cleanup kills coming in from South Korea. I love how we saw from Shy's POV, where he jumped down and he was on the flank. And if you notice, from his POV, he's looking at the South Korean roster, he's firing shots. Usually you would be alarmed at Widowmakers there. Nobody even turns, because they have such large HP pools, the healing is there. There's no chance. He has to come close, or what they do is they just keep moving the payload around the corner. He has to come down and fight, and then they deal with it.
Graviton Surge there as well. Dragon Strike may well have been eaten there. We don't actually see it come through. And that's right, Gushui is fallen. Fate is low, but Korea just trying to back up a little bit here. They're losing a couple players to poke damage. This is the tough part. Later in the fight, if South Korea don't get rid of Shy early on, or Crystal as it were, double sniper compositions really start to ruin you.
Well, I was going to say, with the high ground here for Shy, it's a lot easier to land these headshots down on Jonak or Animo. And I think that's why Fate switches off of Winston to Reinhardt to protect those players, get them in there behind that big shield.
Shy's looking for the little palisade at the back. Yveltal has a take to the sky to avoid getting chunked down. He had a Discord orb on him there. That's the Dragon Strike for Crystal. Comes through. Fate is down, but Crystal is traded out for it. Not having a mech for Fury is a problem, though, especially against these snipers. So we'll see if South Korea just trying to look for a pick here. They may be stopped. 12 seconds left. They lost Carpe. That's a problem. Gushui's like, yep, it's time to go. Straight forward he goes. Speeds the Gushui in. Shy finds two picks. Jonak's out of position now. Has to use a Transcendence and get to the payload just to contest it. Fate charges forward. He knows he's going to get a bit of healing for the moment, and now Leaf is forced to back away. Gushui's in the backline, but Jonak has so much shielding. He has to sit inside the bubble and wait. Flutter stuns him up. Overtime still going. Fate manages to refresh it, but he's so low. Knocked towards the payload. Gushui now getting a bit mad. King of the jungle, they say. And he's trying to claim his territory, but Fate's found Lei Young. He gets the charge and removes the Diva. Self-destruct is in. South Korea now looking better and have a shot at finishing this map. Jonak finds Leave at long range. Get out of town! South Korea pushed through in the final moments, and China doesn't even bother. They just take a seat and accept their fate. And Fate was the one that started that entire chain of events. Another day at the office for Jonak, of course. But for us, it's just unbelievable.
You know, China played that map very strong. The fights that Korea were winning at the beginning, it was really all based around, the nano boost plus the Dragon Blade, right? And then they forced them to switch off of that. They were still, they get to point B, but right there it looked like China was in a great position. Shy starts to hit some shots on the Widowmaker. And then it's Fate. He picks up a double kill there as Reinhardt. You have the support ultimates. Fury pushes them back into the corner with the self-destruct. And just when you think they're going to get a hold, South Korea just comes up with something, pulls the rabbit out of the hat.
I mean,
pushes the payload the distance.
Yeah, Fate charges Lei Young, I believe, into the payload and then removes that mini diva. And immediately, Carpe, having switched to the Widowmaker, knows he can now get an even duel. You know, he doesn't have to deal with defense matrix at all. And then Jonak from downrange managing to get, you know, a right-click salvo of Zenyatta orbs and getting the kill is something that he often provides to us, but not something that you can always count on reliably. But the fact, that was where the snowball just really started to evolve.
And we were interested to see how Leave would do on the Zenyatta. He was playing a lot of Doomfist, DPS heroes. You know, this is the first time we've seen him on Zen this far. He's actually not too far behind Jonak in terms of damage. So Jonak at 4,400, you usually see other Zenyatta's like way down right on the other side. He's sitting at 4K. You know, the healing number is a little bit higher, but you know, not really contributing to a ton of kills. You know, dying a little bit more than Jonak.
Not a huge difference between the two of them, and it's not really enough of a sample size to make any conclusion from it. It is interesting to see the different look, but here's a double sniper again for China, of course, on the attack. It is definitely something they want to go to. South Korea only have the one sniper, but Carpe can often be considered to be worth two.
Well, what you do have here, though, for South Korea is Fleta as Brigitte can just contest the payload for so long because Brigitte's so tanky for a support that it allows Fate and Fury to chase down some of these snipers as well.
This positioning is not normal, by the way. The Carpe pushes this far down, says a lot about him as a player and about him as a person. There's an aggressive push down, utmost faith in himself, obviously belief in his teammates. Up to the high ground, and you can see how those divas interacting with the defense matrix in play can affect, you know, Carpe's odds of getting a kill or feeling confident pushing forward. Oh, Shy wants the tango. Carpe says, come at me, bro. And Shy's having none of it. Realizes he's woken the dragon and doesn't want to stick around to see the aftermath. Carpe, though, launches himself up as Crystal finds him with that Sonic Arrow. Or with the Storm Arrow, should I say, now forced to back away a little bit, but again, that pick is a good start for China. South Korea now just have to give it a bit of ground.
You can see that tanks can control the high ground here for South Korea. They can put Fleta on the cart. Fate does have Primal Rage. It'll be Valkyrie used here for China. Just trying to get that extra healing and also, you know, the damage they can provide to everybody as well. Ooh. There goes Jonak. That's a big pick. He was just about to get Transcendence.
Fate using Primal Rage there is very interesting. He needs to get back to the payload because Crystal's going to cap it. Crystal knocked across the map. Evil Tile just trying to keep him alive, and it's being successful in doing so. I guess the rate of fire of those fits just isn't very high, and Fate has to give up his life trying to defend. This is a better look from China. This is a recovery. And they get that first checkpoint.
Like I mentioned, a lot of the fights that Korea was winning, you were using that Nano Blade combination at the beginning. Carpe gets that front spawn, nothing he can do about it. Once you saw, you know, the snipers for China start to come alive. It looked like South Korea. They just switched over to triple tank, triple support, fought on the ground. See how they decide to use this Dragon Strike. Fury got one of them in the last half, and not going to get this one.
Dragon Strike not getting much done there. Fury down to Shy, though, and China can continue to move forward. Shy has definitely the high ground, but Carpe doesn't respect the tactics of war. Sun Tzu, he says, never heard of him. Crystal now pushing forward to Fate down the lead there, so he's getting some damage down on that Zenyatta pick right now. He's sitting in the background pretty comfortably, though. Doesn't really seem to be phased by much disman. And of course, the Mercy inclusion means that Crystal gets to come back. A second bite of the apple. Leave is just steamrolled over, though, by Fleta, and losing his Zenyatta hurts. It hurts bad. Of course, Fleta receives a nano boost because he can do so much with it. It's very difficult to kill Brigitte when she is in combat and she has a nano boost, let alone if she had a rally. Here's another dragon coming through, though.
And I believe that one actually was eaten. Yeah, it looked like, you know, Crystal was on the other side of those orange crates, and Fury just playing the opposite side, just turns to his left, eats that one.
Where did that grenade come from? That's ridiculous. Ooh. Fate just taking his time now. Was in Primal Rage form, but a little bit low on health. Just to tickle towards Leave. He sees Evil Tile, though he does have a dash to chase, but he instantly sees that that would have been suicidal. Crystal was chasing him down. Fate hasn't had full health for quite some time. Self-destruct doesn't really find too much, but the Dragon Jonak got debated. Walked straight on into it now. Crystal trying to deal with Fate, who's still fighting a low health battle, and Fleta, yes, once again, he gets the nano boost. Not a whole lot to be done with it this time. They do know, of course, the Gushway's behind them, so immediately it's a rude awakening. Shunted and stunned as soon as he gets back up, but Shy has returned to the arena. Evil Tile brings him back to life, and this fight is far from done, but Carpe's in deep trouble. Gushway wants him, he wants him bad. And he might get away with it too. It's so filthy, he gets a second. over the top of Flatter, and there'll probably be 3 here if Fury is not going to be allowed to escape. Stunning Winston play here from China, and they are looking much better. A chance perhaps in the map.
They do use the Valkyrie here, trying to stay alive. Fleta now will go over to Wrecking Ball. So South Korea still wants to fight this. You don't have the effects of Valkyrie because you had it forced out by Primal Rage a little bit earlier.
They have to stall this.
Yeah, self-destruct comes through. Late Young, actually the self-destruct clears it long enough for them to cap the point. Yep. So China does take it. They'll actually be able to kill a few members here of South Korea, and it'll allow them to get some space around the corner.
It happened in an instant, and it was kind of hard to see because Fate was leaping at the payload and actually never got to touch it before they managed to cap. South Korea wanted to avert this situation because look at the time extension China have. 3 minutes, 15 seconds to finish the map. Very doable.
This will be really telling. So South Korea goes double sniper versus China's double sniper. See how it plays out. Is it's going to be a nano boost on Fate. He finds the supports, pushes them back. Carpe with a kill on a Crystal. Oh, you think that's him? But Gooshway's in the back line.
Yeah, Fate was being chased down there by Late Young by the looks, but it looks like his pursuer has broken off. Clever again by Fate. Real great discipline not to chase Eviltal there, even though we had nano boost and about 300 health. He didn't want to give up his life. Really, finer points, but it makes a big difference. Dragon Strike now. No one there really to receive it. Fate now going to go for the Primal Rage here, and everyone's in that small room, but oh, he's forced a Transcendence. That's a huge deal right now. Jonux had to use his though as well, but South Korea probably happily just matching those ultimates for the time being. Eviltal desperately trying to keep Late Young up, and he's done so far, but Gooshway gets a little bit too close to the beast. Fate though gets blown to smithereens by the self-destruct, and now some momentum is building for China. Fredder's trying to get away from this one, but Gooshway won't be having it. He's going to sit and spawn and wait his turn, and Gooshway is the headsman's axe.
Yeah, that's why you love having that Mercy there. You get the res. Fleta is trying to do some damage here. It's going to be Carpe going Tracer, trying to get back to the point. We'll see if they can contest. It'll be a nano boost as Fate dives in.
Primal Rage available for Gooshway here to stall, get some more time. That was the Dragon Strike from Fleta. Again, more importantly, just to move China off of the payload, to give South Korea some respite as they gather themselves now for what will be the final fight. Fury up to the high ground here in a self-destruct, forces Late Young to try and hide, but Leave can't get away! Eviltal will get the Resurrector and bring this Zenyatta back. This is China's Dragon Strike now. Fleta finds Gooshway though, the Doom Fist coming out, but it's so aggressive it puts him right from the frying pan into the fire. And Shy have made a meal of it.
They got to get aggressive here, though, Mitch. The spawns are just going to keep coming up for South Korea. You see Shy here up on the high ground, able to lock some players in the spawn. And China will complete the map. They look so good with that sniper play. Really giving South Korea some trouble there. Now we're starting to see a game.
It's interesting. We talked before this match about South Korea's double sniper composition and the potential that it represents. We did not see this look from China at all. They've definitely been saving this and holding on to it. Because their double sniper composition requires a specific substitution and a role switch for Leave. And yet, it looks well-oiled, well-practiced. With players like Shy in the driver's seat, it seems to have got them over the line, at least for now. The map is far from done. China has another minute and 19 seconds more than South Korea. They definitely have more of a time bank to work with. And South Korea will be attacking first.
So if you're South Korea, you have a few options here on the attack. Obviously, only a minute to go. But do you play the Widowmaker Genji? Do you put the pressure onto the snipers up on the high ground? That leaves your supports vulnerable. I know Gooshway has done a much better job on this end, staying alive in the backline, finishing off those kills. Probably not the option they would go with. Do you play the double sniper of your own? Well, you just did, and it didn't really work. They're going to go with triple tank, triple support. I actually think this is probably the right call here because, the snipers, they're just going to put some damage down. You're going to build up some of those support ultimates. You get one or two, right? You get a rally, you get a Transcendence, you start snowballing through. Not going to get the Transcendence, Jonix did, but, you start building up some of those support ultimates. Maybe you can make some progress.
I mean, that's big, though. It allows China now to push up, get more aggressive. They don't have to worry about the Discord Orb just decimating their tanks. Shy is holding this angle as well. South Korea, if they're not using a sniper to try and counter the sniper of China, they can't answer back in kind. They can't just pick that same angle, and Fate trying to get back to the door. And they are bundled back inside once again. This is a great look from China, and South Korea seem unsure.
It's very smart because if they run this composition and they get under the bridge, that's where they have to go down and fight them. In the open here, there's no answer for that they can do with the triple tank, triple support. So they have to switch off, but they have to play the double sniper.
Now trying to give a little bit more room. They allow South Korea to just begin their approach with this payload, but there's a Dragon Strike which will force them off. Crystal wants to hold it for about now to make sure time runs out while the Dragon is still in effect. South Korea, it's dangerous to get too close, but they keep Fate just on top of that payload. Lei Young wants to chase him, but he gets the call to back out. He does get away with just a sliver of help, but it's enough to keep him inside his mech. Having a mini diva, or a D-Mech diva as it were, in this next fight for China would definitely be a huge disadvantage. We've seen this angle before. Shy gets that infra sight. Carpe has switched to Widow, but Shy has the advantage. Carpe knows that his counterpart will be able to track his movement through these walls, and he's playing very passively as a result.
He has to. It's the only option he has. The self-destruct goes through. South Korea still contesting, but they lose Fury. That's big. You don't have that diva. There are no defense matrix. You see how low Fate's going. There'll be a Transcendence that keeps him alive for the time being.
That will answer the Dragon, but Animo hasn't been able to push out yet because he was forced away by the Dragon. But Fleta, he's going to take the direct approach. They get off the payload, though. They weren't able to keep it going.
They had players there, too.
Yep.
They weren't getting pushed back by like a Pyro
I'll be
or
honest,
something, yeah.
That might have been a good old C9. That might have been what just happened. Jonak and Animo were playing around the payload there, so again, if they're being forced off the Dragon Strike, that's what it's intended to do. Right? It is intended to force you away from those objectives. It almost worked, but that is not a great push from South Korea. And now, they have to prevent China from getting at least that far for 2 minutes and 19 seconds, a very long amount of time. They lose one fight and it might already be over.
But it's different in this type of environment, though. Like, if you're China, with the way the series has gone so far, everybody in the building knows it's something you should be able to complete. But if South Korea wins a fight, they win the next fight, you know, that pressure starts to sit in. The crowd kind of gets hype. And these players haven't been in a moment like this. And that's when the pressure can really hit you hard. And I think, you know, if you're China, it'd be huge to get a pick here to open things up, kind of settle everybody's nerves as you start to push the payload. Because if you don't, South Korea starts to gain some momentum. That's when you can see them crumble a bit.
Mental fortitude. Golden Boy talked about it on the desk. Gwen doesn't know the meaning of the word.
I don't know what he's talking about.
But this is where South Korea and China especially need to have
a Bastion rollout here.
All right, well, Johnny thought it was only for them, but no. There was another. Shy on the payload now with the Bastion. We love it. Some classic Overwatch here, ladies and gentlemen. A variant on the pirate ship strategy. And that's frustrating for South Korea. They have to commit to this fight. Carpe can't do much to get through this shield. Shy is waiting. He knows they're going to drop down. This is when you start to clench your teeth and get ready. Fleta takes a little bit of damage and forced away. Fate's bubble immediately disintegrates now, and Shy is just churning on forward. Damage now on towards Fate as he tries to drop on him. Shy is put to sleep. That's the pickoff. That's what South Korea needed. But Carpe's gone down. They trade out damage dealers. But their Bastion is missing for China, and he is the centerpiece of their composition. Pressing forward, hold used now. Fleta keeping the shield up and his team alive. He has rally if he needs it. The South Korea don't want to commit further to the fight. Crystal's brought back into the fray. For South Korea, they're not about this kind of cheesy play, man. They're not having any of it. Pushing into the small room. Fate goes quite far, gets holded back. Fury now tries to body block and gets desuited in with the Transcendence. They do not have a meched up diva now. Fleta just trying to give healing now with these swings, trying to hold the fort. 1 minute left, but Fate's in the back line. It's gone into the cookie jar and there's nothing left.
And you're going to have to make some more changes. Like, you can't really play the Orisa here because you can't really push forward. They're going to have to change off of that. You're going to play Winston here. Only 50 seconds to go.
It's all gone wrong for China.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to have the nano boost here for South Korea. Another rally in self-destruct. 3 really good ultimates. And that's the risk of running the pirate ship at the beginning, is that if it doesn't work, if they're able to dislodge you off the payload as Bastion, it forces a lot of changes. Carpe will go Hanzo here. You get some extra damage. The Dragon Strike to split some players off of the card.
Can pressure the Reinhardt down a lot. Fate can't really just drop down at his ledger. He needs to stay here. Kusha's taking quite a lot of damage and Fleta goes in over the top. And South Korea, they're getting aggressive. Kusha's been taken down. Shy is also missing lead down to the southwest track, as is Crystal. There's nobody left for China. It's South Korea. Wave after wave of China has broken upon them, and it's barely left a dent. Now, 2 seconds left. Kusha needs to get there, but he's moved on to high ground. Dominance reaffirmed for South Korea. making roster changes before this event, but the three-peat has been completed. The legacy is lengthened. The dynasty is strengthened. And all eyes on South Korea as our gold medalist here at the 2018 Overwatch World Cup.
You know, a lot of pressure on them coming into this event. A lot of the other teams here competing doubted them. They make the roster changes late. But they've been so good at the previous World Cup events, but nobody from those teams comes here with this roster. A lot of pressure on the newcomers. And they come through in the end. China put up a very good fight there on Gibraltar. They really started to find their footing. Just wasn't enough.
And once again, South Korea will hold the Overwatch World Cup trophy aloft. And we're going to head down to the stage now. Danny with Carpe.
South Korea has done it again, everybody. Carpe, you and your team have completely dominated this tournament, and you guys are taking home the gold medal back to Korea for 3 years in a row. What does that mean for you and for South Korea? 네, 한국 팀원들 그리고 또 카라페군 드디어 한국이 또 다시 해냈습니다. 3년 연속 월드컵 우승을 하셨는데요. 카라페군에게는 그게 어떤 의미가 있는지 또 한국에게는 어떤 의미가 있을까요?
우선 저에게는 제가 오버워치 프로 하면서 이제 처음 우승하는 거라 거기다 월드컵이라는 것까지 해서 너무 큰 선물인 것 같고요. 그리고 또 한국에게는 3연속 우승을 지켜낸 큰 의미가 될 것 같습니다.
So for me personally, this is my first award, winning of the first medal, gold medal, as after playing Overwatch as a pro player. So that actually means a lot to me. And as for South Korea, we have defended this gold medal for 3 years, so it feels really good. Alrighty, thank you. One more question, Carpe. So, do you think winning the gold medal for 3 years, does that prove the fact that Korean players are the best Overwatch players in the world? 자, 3년 연속 한국 팀이 오버워치 월드컵을 우승을 했는데요. 그게 어떻게 보면 좀 한국 사람들이 조금 오버워치를 전 세계에서 잘한다라고 말을 할 수 있는 좀 얘기를 할 수 있는 건가요?
네, 당연한 것 같아요.
Of course. Alrighty, that is it. Everybody give it up for South Korea. Back to you guys, casters. Woo!
Taking home the gold medal in the Overwatch World Cup has never been any small feat in any of the years, and yet South Korea always has seemed to be able to do it without really losing a map. 4-0 in this particular series, the resurgence from the Chinese squad, Matt. We saw it in that last map, but it wasn't enough to keep them in the series.
Yeah, and I think, this is probably the toughest gold medal, win that they've had on the run, right? Year one, they play Russia, Shadowburn in the finals. He was going through everybody, playing that Genji last year against Canada. Canada put up a very good fight. They had the crowd behind them in a big way as well. This China team, though, was so strong throughout the Overwatch World Cup. I think a lot of people didn't know what to expect. I don't think anyone really kind of thought, second place was going to be a thing for them. Maybe it was going to be Canada, France, Finland we were hyping up. And China just kind of rolled through everybody on that side. I think, they deserve a lot of props as well. But South Korea, just yet again, whenever, everybody kind of says like, oh, they're not going to be able to do it. They look weaker this year. They just come on through.
It's been an incredible journey for me and Matt here at the World Cup. It's been a personal dream of mine to be able to be part of the grand final experience as well. So thank you very much, Matt. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to head down to the stage now for the one, the only. It's the Nans, Commissioner of the Overwatch League, Nate Nanser. Yeah, you heard me.
Hey, hello. BlizzCon, all right, we're live. Thank you, everyone. On behalf of all of us at Blizzard Entertainment, just want to congratulate the back-to-back world champions, South Korea. Zoe, will you do the honors with the medals? I had to go to the sneaker store specifically for this ceremony to keep up with these guys. All right, give it up one more time for your world champion, South Korea. Now, be remiss if we didn't call out the awesome performances from all the teams here this weekend. So now if you would join me in giving a round of applause to our second and third place teams, China and South Korea, or Canada, sorry.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for our top three of the 2018 Overwatch World Cup. And now the moment we've all been waiting for. It's time to find out who is walking away with the T-Mobile MVP for the 2018 Overwatch World Cup. And there's no one better to do the honors than the CEO of T-Mobile, John Ledger. Let John through, friends. If you're blocking his path in the audience, get him on up here. There's the legend! Let me trade you, bud.
Well, congratulations to both teams on an amazing tournament, an epic finals. T-Mobile is very proud to be part of this. We asked the fans to help us choose who's going to go home with the T-Mobile MVP award. The Overwatch community has spoken, and this year's MVP is Jonak.
All right, let's hear it again. Your MVP, Jonak! Absolutely well deserved. Now, it's been quite a ride through the group stages, now here on the big stage, and you outperformed yourself in every single game. So I have to ask, what does it mean to you to receive such an award representing your country, South Korea?
오버워치 월드컵에서 쪼낙 선수 너무나도 잘하셨습니다. 쉽게 말하면 지금 이 트로피 쪼낙 선수에겐 무슨 의미가 있나요?
네?
의미요.
일단 진짜 엄청 큰 의미인 것 같아요. 그리고 제가 리그에서도 정규 시즌 MVP 받았는데 이건 한국을 대표해서 한 거잖아요. 그래서 이게 더 저는 값지다고 생각합니다.
It definitely means a lot for me. I also was picked as, gratefully, I was picked as the MVP for Overwatch League as well. But I feel like since this trophy, this specific trophy I got it as a representative of South Korea, so I feel like this has way more value.
All right, there you have it. Now, Jonak, you are basically a walking highlight reel on a daily, but I guess that makes this question a little bit hard to answer. What was your proudest moment, just your personal proudest moment during the Overwatch World Cup?
소희님이 이런 말씀을 해주셨어요. 쪼낙 선수의 플레이를 보면은 거의 뭐 걸어다니는 하이라이트 영상이라고 말씀을 해주셨는데 그만큼 잘했다는 뜻이겠죠. Sorry, one more time. What was the question?
What was his personal, proudest moment?
꼭 뽑아야 된다면 지금 오늘 이 오버워치 월드컵에서 활동을 하면서 제일 좀 이거 정말 잘했다, 이 플레이는 정말 좋았다 하는 것은?
딱히 하나가 생각나진 않고 그냥 다 잘한 것 같아요.
I honestly can't pick one, and I think I did pretty well all throughout.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much true. There you have it. Thank you so much, Jonak, our MVP. And of course, once again, a big thanks to John Ledger and T-Mobile, America's fastest unlimited network, to making all of this happen. Pocket, it's been such a wonderful weekend.
Heroes were made, new faces that we hope to see in the Overwatch League next season. We're here on this stage. We made history, and we want to thank the millions of fans who tuned in from around the world, and most importantly, everybody who came out to BlizzCon 2018. Make some noise. You guys were awesome all weekend long, and we can't wait to see you next year. On behalf of Zoe, I'm Chris Bucket, and for everyone here at Blizzard, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in 2019.